Welcome back. Today we are going to be discussing the literacy crisis that is going on in America right now. I want to ask you before we start this presentation, when is the last time you picked up a book and read it cover to cover? Was it for a book report? Was it for school? For a reading log? Was it by choice? I want to know how many of you said it was by choice. We're going to start with the death of reading. America has a reading problem, and it's not a kids these days or those damn phones problem. It is a biological problem and a measurable problem at that. I'm going to explain what happens to the human brain that ceases to read and show you the data that's describing how a lack of reading can rapidly progress the process of cognitive decline and aging. The death of reading is a neurological emergency, and it is reversible. Here are some important statistics. 21% of adults in the United States are functionally illiterate. This means that these people genuinely struggle when reading things like job applications, prescriptions, or instructions. 54% of adults read below a 6th grade level. That is half of our population reading below a middle school level. 44% of adults read 0 books per year. And in 2017 to 2025, we demonstrated a 3% decrease in national literacy rate. COVID-19 accelerated this decline rapidly. It didn't cause it, but it accelerated it. 4th grade reading proficiency dropped during the pandemic years and never fully recovered. Post-2023 numbers are called a new normal, which means we have just adjusted to worse results. For adults, the lowest scoring literacy tier increased by 9 percentage points between 2017 and 2023. These years proved to be a massive loss of a critical cognitive skill for our generation. Reading is not just an educational issue, as low literacy is estimated to cost the United States up to $2.2 trillion annually, and up to $238 billion of it is direct healthcare spending. Adults with low literacy rates are roughly twice as likely to die prematurely from baseline health outcomes, which means reading ability is a mortality variable, and I'm going to explain to you why. So first and foremost, what does reading do? Reading is one of the most metabolically demanding things the brain can do. It activates many networks and is one of the most complex tasks that the brain handles. When you're reading, you recruit numerous regions of the brain: visual processing for symbols, language centers to decipher meaning, working memory to hold the argument, plot, or character development across chapters, prefrontal executive function to sustain attention, and theory of mind circuitry, or mimicking the character's mind in a fictional novel. Reading versus scrolling. Reading is going to sustain your attention without a dopamine hit every few seconds like scrolling does. Scrolling doesn't require complex thinking, long-term memory, or as much focused effort as reading does. The first piece of literature we're going to look at is the cognitive reserve theory proposed by Stern in 2012, which proposes that your innate intelligence plus your accumulated life experience, such as education, complex work, and reading, builds a buffer for your mind. Two people can have the same Alzheimer's pathology building up in their brain, plaque and all, and the person with higher cognitive reserve won't show symptoms for years longer because their brain has built more efficient networks to route information. Reading books is one of the most well-documented ways to build that reserve. A 14-year longitudinal study tracking older adults found that reading activity was directly protective against long-term cognitive decline. This effect held at every level of education, meaning that not only did smarter people benefit, everybody did. The reading itself performed independent work regardless of where the reader started, which means this is critical. Anyone can do it. You can be the dumbest person alive, you can be the smartest person alive, you'll still get cognitive benefits from reading books. In 2026, Rush University Medical Center published research tracking nearly 2,000 adults with an average age of 80. They measured lifetime intellectual enrichment, including how often somebody read, was read to, and had access to resources like libraries and newspapers. The highest tier of lifelong intellectual enrichment delayed Alzheimer's onset by an average of 5 years. For mild cognitive impairment, the delay was shown to be 7 years. That is 5 to 7 years of cognitive life returned to you as a result of consistent intellectual engagement across a lifetime. There are 3 enrichment windows that the study looked at: early, meaning your childhood before 18, middle life, and later in life being 80 plus. Early, you are being read to, reading books, and learning languages. Middle age looked at household resources such as libraries, dictionaries, museum visits, income, all the things that may allow you to receive a better education as your life goes on. Later life is frequency of enrichment activities such as reading, writing, and games, actually keeping your brain active. These 3 windows provide compounding benefits rather than immediate benefits, so if you start now, you will feel the results later in life rather than now. Next, we're going to look at the Hong Kong Dementia Study in JAMA Psychiatry, which looked at 15,500 adults aged 65 plus. Daily intellectual activity, including reading books, reading newspapers, playing board games and cards, showed a significantly lower dementia risk independent of baseline health status. Different population, different country, different research group, still the same result. The Yale Longevity Study ties all of this directly to lifespan, not just brain function. Yale followed 3,635 adults over age 50, adjusting for age, sex, race, marital status, and depression, a controlled trial, a true controlled trial. The results showed that individuals who read books were 20% less likely to die during the 12-year follow-up period compared to non-readers. Researchers calculated this out to a 23-month long survival advantage window, nearly 2 additional years of life simply from reading books. Now, why do I keep saying books? Why not just reading? Why reading books? This is the most important detail by far. In the Yale data, people spent much more time reading periodical content such as magazines and newspapers rather than books. Almost double the hours, 6.1 hours per week versus 3.9 hours per week. The survival benefit only showed up with the books. Researchers explain this as deep reading, the sustained immersive cognitive engagement that is required to track a narrative or arguments across hundreds of pages. This is a direct task-based biological argument that supports the benefits of reading books versus consuming other forms of media. Next is the empathy and social cognition pathway. Researchers point to this second mechanism because when you read fiction, you are modeling another person's internal state, thoughts, conflicts, and actions over and over again throughout the entire book. It makes you think deeper about your own life, question if you would act this way, if you would do this. This helps you work out deeper conversations in real life and simply just knowing yourself better. Books are a rehearsal space for social intelligence, and being able to put yourself in someone else's shoes is an important part of being an empathetic, well-rounded member of society. Systematic reviews pulling together broader literature on cognitive leisure activity consistently point in the same direction. They show that complex, mentally stimulating activities appear to provide a protective, beneficial effect against neurodegeneration and cognitive decline in general. Reading consistently shows up as one of the most supported activities within this category across independent research groups, countries, and study designs. No matter where the study takes place, it is showing that reading will give you cognitive benefits in terms of aging. Here's a summary of the mechanisms we've gone over. Reading builds cognitive reserve, which buffers your brain against the biological damage of aging before symptoms normally appear. Reading trains sustained prefrontal executive function, directly countering the attention decline that comes with age and the dopamine poisoning phone use that's common today. Reading engages empathy and theory of mind circuitry, supporting social cognition, which predicts better health outcomes. These benefits only come from deep, focused, intentional engagement from longer forms of literature such as books. Not scrolling, not audiobooks, not magazines, not comics, books. Neurobiological studies point to books as medicine. So now we're going to look at the displacement problem. People don't have less free time to read than they used to. The time has been reallocated. Short-form content such as reels and shorts have displaced reading time. The attention style that this type of content trains is the opposite of what we just described, and it's counterproductive to focus in the real world. The mechanism of this problem is that rapid scrolling, shallow processing of short videos, and dopamine-driven engagement is believed to do the opposite of reading, which means it is believed that it may cause damages to the cognitive reserve. Short-form content trains an attention system that is less capable of the sustained focus reading requires, which means it is a feedback loop working against you while raising your mortality rate. The generational stakes of this. Our statistics show that fourth graders reading below a basic level are 34%. 27% of 8th graders read below a basic level. Reading habits established in early life have been shown to predict later life cognitive enrichment, as we discussed earlier. The Rush University study showed that early life reading enrichment before age 18 was one of the 3 important windows that predicted cognitive health outcomes at age 80. When we see that 34% and 24% of school children in different age groups read below a basic level, we are seeing a massive problem emerging. Based on this research, it's a preview of a less cognitively resilient population decades from now, unless changes are made on the individual level. So what can I do putting this all together? Data shows this is fixable and cheap, financially and time-wise. Yale's study showed that the effective measurable benefit was shown at just 3.5 hours of book reading per week, or about 30 minutes per day. A higher dose led to greater results, with individuals reading more than 3.5 hours per week showing a 23% reduction in mortality rate versus a 17% mortality rate reduction for the 3.5 hour per week or less group. 30 minutes a day is enough to make a meaningfully different outcome than not reading anything at all when it comes to your mortality rate. An important question many will ask is fiction or nonfiction? Fiction leans harder on theory of mind, empathy stimulation. because you are tracking a character's internal world. Nonfiction leans harder on working memory and sustained argument tracking as you follow a complex thesis. Neither are shown to be superior, they're complementary, but you should try to read both genres to fully train all aspects of your brain, since the two build reserve through slightly different pathways. So, how do we take reading as a training tool? Reading is one lever in a larger cognitive longevity stack that includes things I've previously covered: aerobic exercise driving BDNF and neurogenesis, sleep quality enabling lymphatic clearance of metabolic waste from the brain, and social engagement. Reading doesn't replace any of this, but it fills a specific gap. Sustained deep cognitive engagement that almost nothing in a modern daily routine currently provides, which is critical for healthy cognitive aging. Most people see reading as a relaxing hobby that they do when they have time, but I want you to start viewing it as training volume for the most important, fascinating, and complex organ in your body that gives you life and consciousness. The organ has to run for your entire life, and the return on investment for this simple hobby is 5 to 7 years of cognitive decline delayed and nearly 2 years of added lifespan. This is a training to your outcome that deserves training to your consistency and recognition. To close, I want to say the literacy crisis is not an education statistic, it is a cognitive aging crisis evolving in front of us, in our own hands, in real time, and every single person contributes to it because most of us don't read. 30 minutes of deep reading daily is all you need to live a healthier life, remain sharp for longer, and live longer. Start tonight. Your 80-year-old brain is being built now. Your future kids that are going to have to take care of you when you're older will thank you for reading now. You will unlock more happy, healthy years with your future family if you simply take care of yourself and do tasks like reading, working out, and just live a healthy lifestyle.